Well, my pilot's talking to the other pilots here, so. Okay, it's down here near Hawthorne right now, so we're being restricted as to what airspace we can fly in because of the weather right now. So we'll try to keep an eye on him right here, but the police, the sheriff's department has packed off at least a block, Yes, he's down low here, circling around the area. I believe he's heading to the north. And he's just crossing. That's correct. We're. No, but you know what? When he went through that gated community, he drove backwards. He went through the out lane where they have those spikes that stick out of the ground, you know, that you can't back up or go through. And he seems to have slowed down after driving over those. That's right. Here it is right here. He's going under the 105 right there. Now he's getting on the freeway. You know, I'm so disoriented because I can't see shadows. He's westbound right now.
Will provide you guys some challenges with both Hawthorne and LAX, being that the conditions there, the visibility's down, the ceiling's down, and that limits our ability to fly through that airspace. Even on days when the weather's clear, there are times when we can't track these because of that airspace, giving those commercial aircraft plenty of space to make their way in and out of the nation's second busiest airport. You can see.
And it seems like he's going slower than the actual speed limit as well, which is pretty on par with everything he's been doing the last, 10 minutes or so. He's been going at a slow pace. He really hasn't been picking up speed in the last 10, 15 minutes that we've been watching this chase.
And staying in the slower lanes, the right lanes there, but definitely at or below the general flow of traffic. The volume looks light there now. That westbound 105 is always incredibly busy during the morning rush. We show it to you so often from up in Skyfox during Good Day LA, but at this time the volume has backed off. He's got an open freeway here, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, in that if they're just going to continue to track it from the air, and if there's deputies following. Here is a transition, I believe, with the 110 freeway. Vince, is he going to make that transition?
Yeah, well, they said that Maxine Waters might be in the passenger seat. I don't know.
So up through South Los Angeles, that would head you up towards the Coliseum into downtown LA. And any units on the freeway at all? Because now that he's on the freeway, CHP is going to pick this up as well.
I didn't see any. Oh, there they are.
There's a few right there.
They're about 15 car lengths back.
So CHP has been alerted for sure now that it has entered onto an interstate, part of their jurisdiction. So they're going to be called out in force through the South LA area. All the units nearby will hop on the freeway, perhaps hold traffic on the ramps and continue to track this. Northbound 110 freeway through South LA, up towards the Coliseum, up towards downtown Los Angeles. Pursuit now has entered the 105 and now 110 freeway here, having pretty much stayed on surface streets for the duration of the pursuit in and around the Compton area.
And if you're just joining us, I'm Vanessa Borge alongside Vince Mack and Skyfox and Rick Diggard here in the Fox 11 studios. This is a police chase that started around 10:51 is when we first started hearing about the chase. It began in Compton. It was a carjacking suspect. That carjacking occurred, what we're hearing from LA County, on January 12th, and then police this morning spotted the car and began pursuing this suspect. He went through residential areas. He even went through a gated community, a parking lot of a dollar store as well, endangering those around him. Police were pretty close behind, I would say, to the suspect's car. And then they got word to back off a bit, and that's why you're seeing them such a lengths away from the suspect.
That's right. He's with Maxine Waters, his grandmother. They were allegedly buying crack down on the corner.
Yes, the sheriff's ship is right over the scene here. I don't know if I can see him in the shot, but he's right there. He is.
There he is, tracking him. You can see the Faith Dome there off into the distance. It'll be coming up on Manchester, then up towards Exposition, then the 10 freeway, and it's interesting. This is a suspect that's was able to evade those deputies in that narrow area. That one where he just did a 180 and came back, and there was no other officers to really box him in.
We are stuck where we are because of LAX airspace.
Right, so you're not able to get any closer to that angle. If you're wondering why Skyfox right now is in this angle, they are in that airspace and aren't able to fly and get closer to the scene. But we are getting a perfect view right now and seeing him going much faster than the other vehicles now.
And if you pan the camera a bit up toward the right there, he was in the express lane, so he moved over from the far right, and now he is in the express lanes, which are typically lighter volume. And yep, they can cite him for driving in the express lanes without the proper sensor device as well. You could see the signs there indicating that you do have to have those in your vehicle. in order to drive through that area. But yeah, this is an area, and the air traffic at LAX, Vanessa, you can see the palm tree there. There's a strong easterly wind, and usually planes take off over the ocean. We all know it. We've taken off so many times from LAX, but because of this storm system, the center of that low pressure system is still off the coast, and the wind is blowing into that low pressure system, meaning there's an easterly wind. And aircraft always want to take off into the wind. And with that wind coming out of the east, they're taking off over the land, over Inglewood, over Hawthorne. We were up earlier this morning, and we could not make the transition for that reason. And again, Skyfox is being held up at this time for that.
Right. And it looks like, Vince, you're trying to track down where the suspect is.
Yeah, when I pulled out to show the helicopter, I lost track of where the car was. And I do believe.
I think that's it.
I'm not sure. That's not it. Too many gray cars here.
Are you making the transition up the northbound 110 right now, Vince? Just at a low altitude east of the 110? It looks like they're still able to make their way north. Skyfox, as you can see, how miserable it is out there, wet and rainy.
Right.
Not seeing any units though behind him really anymore. We saw a couple of deputy sheriffs earlier, but now we're not even seeing that. But that sheriff's helicopter was still watching from above.
And this is right now the northbound 110.
Northbound 110 Harbor Freeway up through South LA. We'll be approaching, again, the Coliseum, Exposition Park, up towards the 10 in downtown LA. And then he has the options to get off the freeway here and make his way either to the east or westbound sides of the 10 freeway. So a lot of options for this suspect. Again, a carjacking suspect. An alleged carjacking that took place on Saturday, and it was just this morning that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department were able to catch up with a vehicle. They lit him up, and he did not yield, and the pursuit was on. And it was on for a good time in surface streets in and around Compton, where this pursuit was initiated. And because that is the jurisdiction of the LA County Sheriff's Department, that's why they are the lead agency on this pursuit. Now that the pursuit has entered onto the freeways, the CHP gets involved.
Getting off? Oh. Where?
Yeah, we're trying to locate the car because as soon as he got onto the 110, he was weaving in and out of cars and in that carpool lane as well, and lost the visual on him. So hopefully we're able to find him soon. And we're not seeing any cruisers either anywhere near. There we go. And there we have it. That is the suspect. Police are chasing the carjacking suspect, and we're hearing that he may be armed as well. This carjacking occurred with a firearm. May have used it during that carjacking. So police, of course, even that much more worried about the situation because he could be armed and very dangerous, clearly.
Yeah, certainly, and that definitely changes. I mean, every pursuit is dangerous, Vanessa. You just don't know what you're dealing with that suspect, the mental state that individual is in. If you're running from the police, first of all, that's not a good sign. But if you know that this individual is wanted for an alleged violent crime, then that makes it even more dangerous, obviously, with a weapon as well. Whether or not he still has the weapon that may have been used during that incident, that carjacking on Saturday, that's unclear at this time. But what's clear is he's been able to evade officers thus far, and as long as he stays out of custody, he's a happy guy. And that's why these guys run, because they feel that there is an opportunity for them to evade police and go back to their normal day. We see it every so often. 18% thereabouts of LAPD pursuits end in which the suspects are able to get away. But at times it's safety. It's public safety. Units will back off, as we see here. And they will just try to do whatever they can to protect the public when a suspect is driving so erratically, putting the public at such risk. All right, exiting the freeway, let's try to get an off-ramp here before the 10 freeway, northbound side on the 110 freeway, MLK Boulevard. He's getting off on MLK, so this is South LA. This is close to the Coliseum, Exposition Park. Again, slowing down, and he's got to see those units behind him now. They're close. And you can see CHP, as I said, those are the units that are on that ramp right there. And now it'll be interesting to see if he gets a little more agitated, knowing that these officers
fucking
are
Terrence, I can't believe it.
Trailing him closely. He got into the left lane, left turn lane. Nowhere to go right now because both lanes are occupied. There really isn't an area to squeeze through.
And he's been abiding by those traffic lights, actually. For the last 30 minutes or so, we've been watching him stop at red lights, and then police, of course, stay back to keep themselves and the public safe also.
Making a left, which would be a westbound turn on MLK, going underneath the 110 Harbor Freeway. So he's going to be heading in. MLK is an east-west thoroughfare through the city, and you can take this all the way over towards the west side of LA. Let's see it. He's going to just get right back on the freeway, perhaps. Is that a ramp? Vince, is he getting back on the south?
Yes, it is. Okay. Yes, it is. He's heading back southbound.
Southbound on the 110 freeway, back to where he came. And we've seen this happen a couple of times where, and we've seen it a number of times with previous pursuits, that they get to a point like, I got to get back to where I know the area, and whether or not that's his frame of mind or not, unclear. But 110 freeway looks unusually light. I know it's midday and the morning rush is long ended, and the afternoon is still a couple hours away from getting going. Rain continues to fall across the Southern California region. No breaks in sight, as you can see with our radar there, tracking this storm in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And whenever you see those blips, those yellows, those oranges and reds, that's higher reflectivity. That means more intense rain is falling in that particular area. And there has been some moderate, occasionally heavy rain across the basin where this pursuit has been ongoing. Now southbound on the 110, coming away from MLK. Looks like he's got his hazards on, and those windows are tinted, as we've seen, which makes it a little bit more dangerous because you can't see what's going on. Exiting at 51st Street. That's a CHP unit now, so it looks like CHP may be the lead on this at this time, having entered the freeways. As I said, let's see, that's a good area to pit this guy, perhaps. There's no one up ahead, and he has slowed down a bit, but now he's backing off that CHP SUV. 51st Street, right in the heart of South LA. This is south of the Coliseum, south of Exposition Park. And he's still slowing down and abiding by the rules. He's got his flashers on.
And turning those corners cautiously, because he has to at this point with the weather conditions out there. You see how slick the roads are. He can hydroplane at any point.
That's right. And it's very unique to see him to see his manner change, because the wet weather was not just crossing over Figueroa. Figueroa is a north-south there on the west side of the 110. He is heading westbound on 51st Street. Remember, all the numbered streets starting at 1st Street in downtown LA, going all the way to the 200s in the harbor area. And he is heading westbound through the South Los Angeles community. Now, this is definitely going to head Skyfox into LAX airspace yet again. And this is a residential area. There's a lot of foot traffic, even though it's wet. We'll see what he does on this major. Looks like he's stopping at the light.
You know, if this had been a Texas police officer,
this would be,
or a rural police officer, this guy would have already been pitted
Rick, I want
1,000 times over.
Those that just joined us,
sure, Billy Bob would have been, I had enough of this shit. He's done now.
We are over a police chase right now. So this is by, last we heard, on the 110 southbound. He got off on 51st Street.
Now southbound on Vermont, it looks like. South on Vermont, it appears.
And this is a carjacking suspect. Carjacking, we're hearing, allegedly happened on January 12th on Saturday. They spotted the car this morning, and they are now pursuing him. Began in Compton, has now gone through many residential streets, the 105, the 110, and now we're here in this area, and you could see him going through these wet streets, a dangerous situation, going through traffic lights now.
Yeah, this makes it more challenging yet again.
But hang on, I'll have to look at a sign.
It looks like it's Vermont. If you can confirm that, Vince. It appeared that it was Vermont, that he made a left or southbound turn. So he's heading south, and this would take him back towards the 105 freeway. This, all those streets, Broadway, Main, Figueroa, they all parallel the 110 freeway up through South Los Angeles. And widen out just a bit, maybe we'll see. Now he's making a right turn.
And you saw people right there on the corner. So this is potentially dangerous. And luckily, he hasn't been picking up speed in the last few minutes.
Slowing down now a little bit again, and he's got to see those units behind him. He is now heading back westbound. I think he was on Normandy, southbound on Normandy. If I read the sign correctly there. So heading through South LA, surface streets here, mixed residential again for the most part. And units from the CHP and the LA County Sheriff's Department were trailing them. We'll see if CHP's pulled off now that they're off the freeway. But LAPD's got to be getting involved as well. Westbound on Slauson, which is a busy street here. You're going to see some strip malls, some fast food restaurants like the McDonald's there on the corner. This is well west now of the 105, heading westbound on Slauson, which would take him into the community of Inglewood.
And again, we're seeing those slick conditions. You're watching the radar on the right bottom side of your screen. So it is quite a downpour in some spots.
And he's picking up speed now.
Right, and now he's picking up speed, and it could really be dangerous. And it seemed like he knew where he was earlier in some of those streets. He went through a gated community and was able to evade those officers.
Yeah, making that 180, and the deputy sheriffs were just lined up on the one side. He was able to do the 180 and squeeze right back through.
And we're hearing he may have exited out through those spike strips that usually is supposed to stop you from going in and out of a gated community that you don't have access to. So we're hearing he might have gone and driven over those spike strips. So maybe some tires blown out. We hope, of course, to maybe impede his speed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, I don't see that, but that's all the reports we're getting then. And if he did drive over those, it's very likely there had to have been some damage to the automobile. And again, now that the pursuit has been going on for some time, you start to think about how much gas was in that vehicle when the pursuit started. And if that comes into play, all we do know is that this is a potentially armed and dangerous suspect, a carjacking suspect. That incident occurred on Saturday, still being pursued here. And it looks like CHP is still the lead, that lead SUV vehicle, tracking him very closely now. So they're getting a little bit more aggressive, making a hard right turn, almost narrowly hit that other sedan at the intersection. Now we're going to see if he's going to pit this guy right now. Off to on the lower left there, you see. He's getting closer. And he just, against traffic there. All over surface streets here in the numbered streets in South LA. And he's really picking up speed. Again, you see the officers as they get closer. The driver gets more agitated. And this is where it is so dangerous. People walking across these residential streets.
We just saw someone trying to get into their driveway just a second ago and him driving around.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, right through that big ponding of water. As I said, at the intersections, that's where it tends to collect on surface streets, outer lanes, on the freeway. And given a rainy, cool day here in Southern California, hopefully that is limiting the pedestrian traffic. And whether or not he knows where he's going or is just driving aimlessly through all these surface streets in South LA, unclear at this time.
And these are tight streets. We're seeing parked cars on either side.
Both sides. You can't get through.
And he's squeezing through either side of those cars.
That's right. It's a two-way street, but it's challenging to get through those streets. And now making another turn, and we'll see what that's CHP officers tracking him close. If he gets the opportunity to spin him out, again, if there's not much traffic up ahead, he's pulling off to the right. Is he pulling over? Let's see what he's doing here. No, continuing on. He's playing that cat and mouse with these officers, and there's somebody out walking their dog there, and still a lot of vehicular traffic. We'll try to get a location here from.
And you're seeing the ponding as well. So he's taking these corners, which are now inundated because of the rain from overnight and this morning. And so it's that much more dangerous for these officers as well.
No question. And they're taking that into account. You could see there was a CHP officer on the opposing side of that street here. This South LA neighborhood is mixed, just like you see, a residential. There's a little bit of industrial and commercial in this area. It looks like he could be heading back northbound. Vince, do we have a location?
Yeah, he is heading northbound at this moment. He turned off a 54th. I'm not exactly sure what we're crossing. Well, here we know. He just crossed Slauson.
Okay, coming up past Slauson now, heading northbound through South LA. Oh, over the just missed that vehicle and over the medium there, not divided by an island there. Yeah, it looks like it is there now.
And you're seeing everyone getting out of the way. They're hearing those police sirens. They're seeing the flashing red and blue, and they are getting out of the way, which they need to, because this is definitely a manic driver just taking these corners.
Yeah, and a good time to remind everybody, it goes without saying, that if you ever are in a situation like this and you see something like this coming up behind you, give the officers plenty of space. You don't know what they're dealing with in terms of.
Oh my God, the brown van!
You don't want to harm yourself. Put the the officers in any more danger than they already are. Their adrenaline's high. They want to bring this to an end. They want to keep the public safe. That's what they swore to, and they're trying to do so by getting an alleged bad guy off the street right now and keep everybody on the streets during this pursuit safe as well.
And keep yourself safe by making sure, I know I do this all the time, I make sure I just pause for a second on those, even if I have the right of way of a stop sign, a four-way stop, even if I do have the right of way, you still want to pause because we've seen too many times, you know, in these pursuits, especially here in Southern California, where they are so common. You really need to be careful because he has almost hit a number of people in intersections because obviously he's not abiding by the rules of the road.
Trying to get away. He's not in custody now, and he's been able to evade officers this long, and he thinks he can continue to do so and maybe have a chance to get out of that vehicle, get on foot and hide out and hopefully not go to jail today. He's being written up for a number of violations for his reckless driving, in addition, obviously, to the most serious crime, the alleged incident, the carjacking, which took place on Saturday. So through South LA, this is a major north-south street. Western?
Yeah.
Western, heading northbound on Western, which would take them all the way north up towards, you know, the Mid-City area, Harvard Heights, the area to the west of downtown Los Angeles. We'll see if he continues on this path. I think if he has an open roadway, it's hard to get into the minds of these suspects to see what their plan is, and their main plan is to stay away from police and stay out of jail.
And it looks like the roadway right now is very calm. We're not seeing too many cars, so at least there's that, because he is going at a pretty high rate of speed in these residential areas. This
is an LAUSD area. It's you know, unclear if that's having much of an impact on the volume on the streets. I do know that on wet, dreary, cold days like this in LA, people like to stay hunkered down if they can and are not out and about. That's why we're not seeing as much traffic, either vehicular or pedestrian traffic through this area. Northbound on Western, heading up through South LA. The incident started in Compton. That's where the pursuit started. They caught up with this alleged carjacking suspect, possibly with a firearm. A firearm was possibly used during that incident. The pursuit was on, and it was on surface streets for some time, and now it made its way onto the 105 and 110 freeways, and he exited the 110 freeway, and there he goes. He had a red light there. He stopped again, Vanessa.
Yeah, it's erratic behavior, really, because at some red lights, he'll stop, he'll wait for the light, and police are trying to be as cautious as possible, and they'll kind of back away, and there'll be a few car lengths behind him, and then in other intersections, he blows right through it. So really erratic behavior here. Some moments he'll go below the speed limit, some moments he'll book it. So it's really unclear what his choices are here. Nothing is consistent. What is consistent is that police have been chasing him since about 10:45 this morning, and he has been able to evade them. Yeah,
about an hour. And again, we start to think about gas, how much gas is in this vehicle. You think about the public safety as these officers are. CHP joined in once the pursuit went on the 105 freeway westbound and then transitioned to the 110 freeway. He exited the 110, but then got right back on, but in a different direction, southbound. And you can see there is a pedestrian, umbrella in hand, crossing through that intersection there, pulling into an alley now, a tight alley. And we'll see what happens here with this suspect. Again, it's an alleged carjacking suspect.
And I wonder if he knows this area, considering he just went into a street that it could be, you know, blocked off, and then he's stuck.
Yeah, it's possible, and I know that this part of the basin, as we fly through, we transition. This is part of the Bravo, the LAX Bravo, as we call it, the airspace there. So we're having to shoot it at an angle to a degree, the pursuit here, and we're not seeing much movement right now. So it may have.
Are we seeing the cruisers anywhere? There they are.
And it looks like something's going on at that intersection right there. Oh, that's the suspect right there, coming southbound there. I believe he did a 180. Now he's heading south. Go back to the wide now. Go to the right, Vince. It appears that he was heading southbound. Right there. Keep going right.
Keep going
pan right. Pan right and widen out.
Here we go.
I believe is that him right there. If you push in, maybe not.
No, I don't think that's him.
Yeah.
He went into that street, and then police looped around. If you could see any of those cruisers, Vince. And that's what I mean. I mean, look how tight. Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right, guns are drawn.
Oh,
wow, he's taking off his clothes. He's taking off. And he's getting strict orders.
It's a chick. Look, it's got tits.
Got his hands up.
It looks like.
Me too.
I can't tell if that's a male or a female.
We're hearing that it is a woman.
It is a woman.
She's her hands
walking
backwards.
She's doing what she's told, and we don't know if there was another individual in the vehicle. If there was just the sole occupant, the driver, but the pursuit stopped,
And luckily coming to a safe end. Hopefully nobody else was in that vehicle. As far as we know, we don't.
Yeah, there's the vehicle
so.
right there, and the doors are both shut.
I think it's in the alleyway.
Oh, the vehicle's in the alleyway, so that car, that gray car there is.
All right, it looks like this is coming finally to an end an hour later. And coming to a peaceful end, thankfully.
Yeah, we haven't heard of anybody being injured, but we saw a lot of erratic behavior by that.
A lot of close calls,
too. A lot of close calls, and hopefully we'll find out that nobody was hurt. But a female suspect being detained, an alleged carjacking suspect. Carjacking took place on Saturday. The pursuit started in Compton, and this female suspect now being taken into custody. So we believe, as Vince said,
this scoop has been brought to you by the makers of Gillette.
We can get a peek there. That other gray,
feel bad for this woman,
I guess, is,
even though she's a criminal.
Somebody else.
And we've been
Shave
watching
your faces,
this
man.
for about 45 minutes to about an hour. Skyfox has been over this scene, weaving in and out of streets. He jumped on, or she rather, jumped on the 105 and then the 110 north and then south, getting off on 51st Street. It has been quite an hour just watching this car stop and go. At some points she would stop at traffic lights, other points she would just ram right through it, and that was the scary moments that we're seeing her weaving in and out of traffic. And then of course on top of that, the story we've been talking about all day, that's why you're seeing your radar on the right bottom hand side of your screen, is because of the weather. So that's what we were most terrified about throughout this entire chase, was what happens if somebody is injured, that suspect spins out and then hits someone else, because we've seen a number of residents in the area. But luckily right now we're seeing this coming to a peaceful end. Looks like she got out of her vehicle, and they are putting her away now, putting her in handcuffs. So alongside Vince Mack and Rick Dickard, and now joined by my colleague Alex Michelson, this is an earlier edition of the Fox 11 News at noon. And we do want to do an update on the weather as well, Rick, because that was certainly an issue here within this chase, and an issue for everybody in Southern California.
It certainly was.
If that had been Tom Brady chasing her, she'd have been caught within 5 minutes. Just saying.
Skyfox, anybody hear me on the ground? Yeah, the LAX air traffic's kicking us out of here. We're down too low in their airspace. They're making us get out.